It is Thursday, September 4th, 2025, and you have found the Living Youth Podcast. My name is Wallace Smith, and my normal partner, that's a weird thing to say, my usual partner, maybe that sounds better. My usual partner, Mr. John Robinson, is not here today. He is out this week. However, I am not alone. Now, sometimes people say that in an inspirational way, like they know God is always with them. But I literally have another physical human in the room with me today. It's a real privilege to have him on. Mr. Robinson and I both wanted to do this for a while. Now that he's here at headquarters, I am joined in our studio / Mr. Robinson's office by Mr. Adam West. You want to say hello, Mr. West?
Hello.
Well, very good. You didn't do the vaudeville thing and say, hello, Mr. West. I already think better of you. Anyway, we're going to talk to Mr. West. He's moved here to Charlotte, North Carolina just a few months ago. I'd say he's brand new in the job, but we have, I think, worn him out by now. I don't think he'd call himself brand new anymore. And you're seeing him here and there on sermons from headquarters, and we want to help you get to know him. And we'll get started right after the music. Thank you for waiting through the music, and thank you, Mr. West, for waiting and not running out of the room.
Thank you for the music.
Okay, I should fess up to the audience here. We have known each other for, let's see. You were in Kansas City when I was training, and that was 2005, 2006. But we didn't really, I think, interact a whole lot then. I think the first time that I can remember, and by the way, poor Mr. West, I didn't put anything of these in the notes of what I might talk to him about. I think it was when I came for a Kansas City weekend and we spent the weekend at your house. Does that sound right to you?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah. That's when we got to know each other a bit and stayed up later than we should, chatting and such. And I'm very appreciative. I will say this, that when we were driving back, my wife and me, because that's who I drive back with, I remember us saying, wow, I wish we'd have spent more time with them when we were in Kansas City. We were so disappointed about that. And then really got to know you more at the preteen camps and stuff serving.
That's right. 2008 for the preteen camp.
Was that the first
year?
Preteen camp you were there?
Yeah.
And you were a counselor, right?
Head counselor that first year with Mr. Ben Graham. He was the assistant counselor.
That's right. I remember assigning him to you because he's very knowledgeable about the Missouri preteen camp back then, and you were a new guy, and I wanted to make sure you had someone knowledgeable. How did he do? You can be up front.
He was wonderful. He really was.
Okay,
yeah.
Well, good. He definitely had good things to say about you, and was my son in your dorm that year or the next year? Was that year?
Yes.
Okay.
He was.
Oh, well, it was. He
2 years,
loved it.
I think he was.
I will say to everyone listening that Mr. West really raised the game for all the counselors. He was a very good counselor there in fact, you might even try to hire him out now if you have a preteen camp, but he was wonderful, just really involved with the kids, helping them in terms of learning the activities and such. And anyway, in fact, if you listening today were one of his preteen campers, feel free and drop us a line on Spotify and or YouTube and let us know the truth. Maybe the things we don't know about how he made you all eat sand sandwiches or something like that. But I remember the kids just loving your dorm, and I just appreciate all the energy you brought and the art that you would draw. You would draw things for them, from different classes. Already some of you other counselors are feeling inferior, but where did you, because I think it was at that time I learned that you did draw so well. I didn't know, I don't think I knew it before that. Where did you learn to draw? Where did you learn that kind of skill?
I always had an interest in drawing. My dad was he was very skilled, actually, at drawing. He didn't do it very much, but when he did, he really kind of set the bar high. But I always drew, and of course I had a couple years of graphic arts in my high school years. The last couple years were graphic arts, and did various drawing after that, taking classes. So yeah, it's always been an interest.
Well, Mr. Ben Graham, your assistant counselor, did eventually become a graphics designer. Maybe you were the inspiration.
That would be wonderful if that was the case. But Yeah, he's very skilled.
Oh, he is very skilled. We appreciate him very much. Well, our listeners need to know we do try to prep our guests. We don't pretend everything is just completely random and unplanned. And so I did send Mr. West some suggestions of what I thought I would talk about. But our listeners need to know that all of this, none of this has been that. Just so you know, I'm not. We're also not married to it that well, but we do go back a ways. And I used to have a list of ministers, and even though I was in the ministry earlier, I remember sometime after having you as a kind of a brother in arms there in that position, I remember thinking, I have certain ministers I'd like to grow up and be more like one day, and you were on that list in terms of various skills that you bring to and I really appreciate it. But you're here now. We'll get to where you're from a little bit later, but here you are at headquarters. What are your responsibilities here? And I say plural because I know it is. I know it is plural. You've been brought here to fill a role, and it used to really. By the way, I'll confess, it used to bother me out there when I would hear about a minister moved to headquarters back when I was out, because it's like, we need ministers everywhere. One more headquarters, but at the same time, it's really clear we need ministers here too, and especially when you just see that God has really moved Dr. Meredith and has really moved Mr. Weston to bring someone here. He doesn't do that lightly because he knows that we have needs everywhere. But he's got you here doing a number of things. Give us a sense, if you will. What are your responsibilities here?
Primarily, I guess right now, working with the building overall, inside and out, all the things that would entail, maintenance, all just facilities, anything that would involve the building.
Like we mentioned, we kept harping last time on the construction going on outside. And I say harping, it wasn't that negative, but the construction going on the stairs outside behind us, which is done now. They look great, and so that would be a part of that.
That's a project for facilities, and thankful that's been completed. And mail processing, fleet management, just working with the operations generally.
Okay. All right.
IT.
Right. And that said, I know, and I just something I didn't say that I was going to be asking about, but I remember hearing about when you before you were in the ministry, when you were working outside of the ministry, and you do have work experience in terms of various corporate work and such. I know you've worked internationally. You've been to those. So can you give us any kind of sense of the work you were doing before you were brought into the ministry?
Yes, before the ministry, I guess you have to say everything is a developing situation. Yeah. So when I first started in management, I was 17.
Oh, wow.
And I think at that point I knew I wanted to be in management. So everything that I did after that was really directed to that aim. And I found myself in leadership roles or management roles early on. When I started with a company that eventually I left to enter the ministry, I started there actually in the warehouse. Just warehouse manager and shipping boxes and doing all those things. But by the time I left, I was COO and senior vice president, and we had distribution centers in 4 countries, and it had grown. I think the first 7 years it grew 30% a year.
Oh, wow!
And so that kind of rapid development, it really creates an environment where you have to internalize everything, read voraciously, and be able to implement quickly. So very, very fast decision-making pace. But I worked in that environment along with, of course, my brother-in-law, who was at that time he was the owner of the company, and I had worked for him for throughout my teen years, and then so when we were working in that environment, it was kind of just a continuation of our earlier years. But he was a big impact on my life. And I think everybody has individuals who are like that.
Yeah.
But he in particular really was very patient
Right.
with helping me to see the big picture as we were developing. And I think I don't want to be remiss in not acknowledging that.
No, I really appreciate that. And you mentioning going back to 17, I'm trying to think of some of my teen years and maybe before 17, but I was thinking, I know what you're saying. That was about the time I decided I shouldn't spend as much time reading comic books, or something. But no, before 17, I got a little bit further along there. But that said, a lot of our listeners, the podcast here is for our teens and our young adults in the church. But for those teens listening, poor Mr. West, I really didn't prep him with almost all these questions so far. But I appreciate your saying that, because it's so our world just looks at the teenage years as sometime not to, I don't know. They don't seem to encourage the building of substantial things in life that really, you're 17 now, but there's things you can do right now that when you're 27, you will be immensely grateful for. You have this idea of a gap year before college, depending on whether it's an investment or a time of fun, but it's almost like the teenage years are like a gap period, where it's like, have your fun while you can. I remember one of my sons, Michael, I shouldn't say his name because I talk about his employer, but I won't indicate his employer. He was working for someone while he was getting college credit, and the individual would literally tell him, and this is a woman who did say she was a Christian, quote unquote, not in the church, but would say, you just work so hard and you're such a goody two shoes. You need to go out and get drunk. You need to go do this. You need to go. And I remember Michael just thinking, it was good exposure for him to go, wow, some people can consider themselves a Christian and still say things like this. Very appreciative for her influence on him overall in terms of a work environment. She gave him great opportunity. But in terms of that, it's like, well, no, why would he spend time doing that? He wanted to do things more productive. So all that to lead up to the point of, we have young people listening right now. Given where you are, what things would you recommend for them? Not a lot of them can go get a job, at a high level of management, but what are some things you might recommend that some of our younger listeners can really do with an orientation towards the future and positions of responsibility, I guess I should say?
Yeah, I think reading, is important. Take an interest in developing yourself, and the way to do that is to read. You develop a wide vocabulary. You're able to articulate ideas. You're able to learn through the experiences of others as they're writing about different things, and you're going to learn about a lot of different subjects. So you learn broadly. All of that lays a foundation. And so if you're not reading, if you're just watching, I think you're possibly doing yourself a disservice later on. And beyond that, where you can, where responsibility is extended, that you could take a hand in that, don't shrink from it. Be willing to step into roles that you're not completely comfortable with, and allow yourself to grow into them. And that is something that that takes courage, takes having a vision for the future, and recognizing that most of the times things do work out. Sometimes we get worried about a lot of different things, but we have that, I think, that blessing of knowing that God is there and we can trust in Him and move forward, and He's going to provide. And so early on, I have told a number of young people, be kind to your future self. You're going to be that person someday. And so those are just some simple ways you can just show kindness. Just invest yourself in some of those things. And I think when the opportunities come, if you're ready for the opportunity, then you can step through the door. If you're not ready, that opportunity may not come. What are you keeping yourself from potentially by not using your time wisely? And so trying to see what maybe even God might be preparing you for. I didn't know that. It was amazing to me early on, just having a forklift certification, the kind of doors that can open. If someone doesn't have that certification, they're not trusted to get on that piece of equipment. They can do a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And so having even certain certifications, a lot of certifications you can go after, and it doesn't have to be formal, schooling. You can do that even in your spare time. So you can invest in yourself even in those times when others might be taking it easy, maybe relaxing, but you can take a more vested interest in your own future and be able to prepare. You don't know what opportunities may come.
I appreciate you putting that last point, especially because if I can speak to the things in my own personality that would cause me to freeze up sometimes, is the idea that, well, is this exactly the right thing to learn how to do to get me going in this exact right direction, when sometimes we're not even sure exactly what direction that might be. And what I didn't think about it as a young person is the idea of just collecting good skills. Who knows then, even if you think you know the direction, you're not sure you know the direction, is this still a useful skill? The idea that, well, I don't know if I should get certified to be able to operate a forklift because maybe I'm not going to own a forklift company, or I don't know how you would think about that, but just recognizing, hey, this is a skill that makes me more valuable as a person. And yeah, I really appreciate that example. Thank you, by the way. You're doing, given that I didn't tell you I was going to ask any of those questions, you're doing fantastic. But I did want to ask, because you are in the ministry, and before we brought you here, you were serving in an area. If you would, in fact, some of those people in that area might even be listening right now and thinking, good riddance, or hopefully not. They're thinking, oh, we miss him. But what area was that, if you could let us know, and how were we able to get you here? What have they done?
Yes, before coming to headquarters, I was serving as a regional pastor in the Northeast region, and so that's really from Maine, New York, down to about half of Pennsylvania.
Yeah, that's a lot.
So a fairly large area, but. Wonderful brethren, wonderful ministerial team in that region, and when you serve together and you go through all these ups and downs together, and my family and I were there for 7 years. And so you see a lot, and you leave there, and it is like leaving family.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we don't have to be sad about it, because we do see each other at the Feast of Tabernacles. We see others at various other times, but you do appreciate those connections.
Right. I'm grateful, and I know it's sincere, but I've never talked to someone who's been moved to headquarters and say, hey, well, what area do you come from? It's like, oh, they were terrible. I'm so glad to be here. It's like I escaped. I've never heard that from anybody, and I feel that myself. I love the areas that I pastored, and you see that God was working something out to bring here. And Jesus Christ is the ultimate. He is his own HR department. He knows what he's doing and where he wants people to go. But I know that they were sad to see you go, but they've got Mr. Bob Rodzai there now.
That's right. Mr. Rodzai coming in, and just such a caring and serving pastor, and I was very appreciative for him to come and be able to spend a little bit of time with he and his wife, and so it was, when those passing of the baton can be like that, that's a joyous occasion, really.
Yeah, definitely so. Now you did not come here. You've brought family with you. You forced them to come here with you, right?
No, actually, I didn't. But yes, my wife Angela. We are here. Our daughter and son-in-law and 2 grandbabies came just a few months after we arrived, and so we are enjoying having them here. Very special, and of course our grandbabies are 1.5 and 3.5. So fun ages.
I can bet.
Noisy but fun.
I whenever it was mentioned that you're being moved and such, I thought, and they got grandbabies. I know that's going to be difficult. And then here they are working here as well. I know in terms of your son-in-law, it was a real encouragement in terms of looking for a job here. And I think his story I'd say a boldness, just a willingness to just step out there. Would you mind sharing this story? I think it's a helpful one.
Yes, they actually came just for a visit, and during that visit, he was going to put some resumes out, and actually, Mr. Ruddleston had pointed him in the direction of an area that had a lot of different businesses that may be something that he'd be interested in. But he was driving by, and there was a sign that just said "Help Wanted," and he stopped, pulled in, talked to the leaders there and people that were looking to hire, and they took him out to the job site, and sure enough, he had a job on the spot. He did his orientation the next day, and then went back north to New York to prepare to come down, because I think he was going to start in just 2 weeks. So.
Wow, was able to give his notice and fill that and head on down. That is a great story, and I love it. I've actually shared it with a number of people. If I need to give your son-in-law a buck or two or something, let me know. But, because what's the worst that could have happened is they could have said no. It's like, or they could have said, hey, yeah, go online and, submit something. But that willingness to just stop and talk to somebody. Yeah. Mr. Weston has mentioned that we're so used, we've been trained to just email everything and this and that, and sometimes just a face-to-face. And I know Mr. DeSimone, he might have said it when he was here for a podcast, I'm not sure, but he's mentioned before that there's nothing like standing out from others. And it's one thing for a lot of people to mail in their things or to email them, but then to actually be there in the flesh, and how God was able to use that to kind of take care of them that way. So that's fantastic. What an encouraging thing that is. So you have moved, and I've been through a move before. I know things can't always be easy. Now, if you're going to give one of those stories where you say, actually everything worked out, there was no difficulty whatsoever, I'm just going to start to get bitter because we have difficulties when we're moved. What was the biggest challenge of moving to the area? And if there wasn't one, you can be honest. I don't want to make you feel bad.
No, I think when you received the call, which I did in December, then I think it's just the overall challenge of trying to see the end from the beginning. You know that at some point you will move to Charlotte. You will be there. You will need a home. And so this whole cascade of planning begins. Yeah. And the challenge of trying to see out maybe 6 months and what all those steps would be like. And being able to do that, it was challenging, but I think there's a reward in the challenge. Yeah. When you want to do it well, you want to plan properly, pray about everything, of course, and to see it unfold. We didn't know, because we couldn't, I think, from the beginning know exactly how it would happen, but we were about 6 weeks in Airbnbs.
6 weeks.
And that's not maybe that's not just unique among those who have had to move, but seeing that we would be in Airbnbs, but also having we had a deacon who was just incredible in finding an Airbnb that we could use. Of course, we paid for that, but seeing how people come to help, and they're willing to help, and being able to it wasn't just us relying on our own selves and we're going to get through this. It was all of us together, kind of a family experience where you're leaning on one another, and that's what made it to where we could get through it. And I will say the timing was impeccable as far as God's timing.
Really?
You may not know it going into it, but when you look back and you say, just the sale of a house, buying another one, these things, all of it just fell into place in a way that we were very thankful.
No, well, good. You're allowed to be blessed, just so you know.
Okay,
I'm not going to get that better. No, that's very good. And I am very grateful. I remember being, plugged in with you guys in terms of hearing what was going on and hearing the news of different steps of the trip. And it really did seem like you were being blessed. As what you said about the help that you get here and there, I've experienced that here and there. I mean, that sounds kind of dumb to say. I've experienced help from members in the church here and there. Well, in particular, a few moments where it's almost too generic to say, but still true, that it's wonderful to be part of a community, where you do look out for each other and you care for each other. But there's times when I've just been stunned that here these people come out of the woodwork and I'm getting help from all sorts of places. That was before I was in the ministry, certainly also while I'm in the ministry. And to me, it brings home what Christ says about how he would give us mothers and sisters and brothers, a hundredfold. He would give us so many more, because it really is like a family, like you said, and I can only imagine that. Well, so you're here. If you didn't know that, you are here. What have you enjoyed most about being here? And that could be one or both of here at headquarters, or just here in Charlotte. We don't actually talk about the city of Charlotte all that much in terms of here on the podcast, but people hear about it a lot. Anyway, what you've been here enough months, and maybe there's nothing. This could be the time to say, just so you know, it's been absolutely awful. I'm in tears. I'm crying. I want to go back. No, what have you enjoyed most? I don't put that kind of pressure on you, Mr. West. What are some aspects of things you have enjoyed since the move?
Well, in terms of, say, Charlotte in general, I think, just enjoyed how readily available everything is. There's a lot around here, and the weather, and I'm sure I'll appreciate that even more when
As
winter rolls around. I look in my garage and there's no snowblower, and I have to say I smile. But in terms of headquarters, working with dedicated, talented individuals who are here, who are mission oriented, and that's so important. If you have a purpose, if you have something that's driving you, and everything is the decisions that are made are to support that mission. And I've just seen that at every corner of headquarters, and to me it's been very inspiring. You strive to really aspire to that, and that's been tremendous. And I'm sure, being here, I think it's been about 4 months or so, but I have felt that from day one, and continue to feel it. I don't know that that'll be going away. I think it is just a part of the environment.
Yeah, it really is wonderful to be a part of just the focus. It's like we all know why we're here, right? And even if you get off the track with that, because we all make our mistakes, next thing you know, we're in kind of a different place, and you just because you're in such an environment, it sparks you. It's like, remember, this is why you're here. It's like, oh yeah, that's why I'm here, and you're able to get right back. Well, so that said, in your positions, I know you work with facilities, you're working with IT, with purchasing, with so much in terms of taking care of the actual operations of what we're doing. What are some things you look forward to? Hey, you look forward to new stairs, and we have them. That's great. What are you looking forward to in terms of what the future holds from those perspectives? It's easy to think of just what we look forward to in terms of trying to do the work or what we're doing, on our website or something. But in terms of the kind of support that you provide, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I think a lot of it is being able to somewhat be the eyes, be able to see the things that need to be done. And the longer I'm here, the more comfortable I am with the building, the ins and outs of how things work, the systems. I think I can perceive more things that could be done, that would be improvements, enhancements, ways that just even in terms of keeping things maintained. The more the more that I can focus on that, the more, say, Mr. Weston can focus on doing what he's doing,
right,
and not have those concerns. And so, to me, that's a way that I can shoulder some of that on his behalf. So.
We resonate with that in editorial. It's kind of the same way. You feel like within your responsibility, as much as you can take on, that those above you and over you that have other responsibilities they don't have to worry about. For our listeners, I might let them know kind of one of the things behind the scenes that might surprise them, but made a huge difference for the work. Something that's in more your department, or at least within the realm of the things that you work with, was the old switch way back under Mr. Davy Crockett from green envelopes, from small, short ones to longer ones. You think, oh, that's more expensive. Why are you I'm just sending in a donation check. It could be whatever. When he found out from whatever means that you guys know stuff about, that it was remarkably cheaper to deal with the longer envelopes than the smaller envelopes. That the reduced cost of the mailing or whatever it is, far more. I mean, it really outweighed any kind of additional cost of material or paper in the envelope. It saved. I'm not kidding. You could talk to Mr. Ruddleston, but it was like tens of thousands of dollars a year just by the choice of envelope. And it's like, what? And man, if anything, Mr. Weston, he kind of wants, Mr. Weston will highlight, he wants to spend on what's worth spending on, right? But that said, we don't want to spend foolishly. And I used to joke that, the Abraham Lincoln on the penny will scream as he's pulled out of our fingers, right? But we only have, God gives us a certain amount of resources, and spending that wisely is a real challenge while trying to achieve as much as we can. And so much of that is in the areas that you're responsible for. And I really appreciate it. Well, before I let you go, because I know you're a busy guy, it's not right to talk about how busy you are and then just keep you here all day. I have to ask about a story because I tell it a lot, and either I'm imagining it. I don't think I am. And if I'm not imagining it, I want to tell it right. And it's a you story, and it involves something you said. So here we go. When you helped start before the ministry, the company you're working for, you helped open their branch or whatever you would call it in Czechoslovakia, right? Was it Czech Republic?
Czech Republic.
Czech Republic, thank you. And you learned Czech over the course, at least functionally in some way?
Yeah,
right,
somewhat.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to surprise you and say, well, now read this in Czechoslovakia or read this in Czech. And I remember you talking to me about the story because was it from the ground up, a new building and everything? I can't recall.
We were in an industrial park.
An industrial park, yeah. Okay. But there was some work to be done, some grounds and stuff. Yes, okay, yeah, yes. Right. And because I want to tell the story too, so our listeners get an example that you have been around. That could be used in a bad way, but in a good way. You have really been out there. So there you are in the Czech Republic. Someone who's just learning, and functionally, to speak Czech, and there's workers out there, and it's a story about you grabbing a shovel or something, or going outside and saying something I can't exactly recall. And as I've told it, I've said different things, and I realize I think I'm making things up. So what would help me with the story, if you don't mind?
Yes. They were actually planting trees.
Okay.
And they had the shovels. And so I mentioned to them, I said the word shovel at that time, but then I said, ja jsem připraven pracovat. And that is, I am ready to work.
Ah, nice. And do they all say, what? Speaking, what?
They handed me a shovel.
Okay, that's going to make my telling of the story even better, because honestly, that phrase right there, that's the kind of phrase anybody wants to hear, is I am ready to work. So good. Well, good on you. That's a great story. Thank you for spending the time with me, Mr. West. It's I think you and I did way back some 5 questions thing on, oh boy, one of my old Friday Night Greetings videos, wasn't it?
I do remember that.
Ages ago. Yeah. We are a bit older than we were since then. Yes. A few hairs lost since then.
The march of time.
March of time. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sand.